All right. Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. We're always looking for interesting stuff to dig into, and today, oh boy, today's topic is something we all deal with every single day, whether we realize it or not. Negotiation.
Yeah, it's funny when you hear that word negotiation, you probably think like, uh, you know, big business deals or hostage situations or something, right?
Like some high-stakes drama, you
Yes,
know.
totally. But it's so much more than that. I mean, think about it. We negotiate stuff all the time, like with our families, our friends, at work, even just deciding what to eat for dinner.
I never thought of it that way, but you're totally right. And that's what's so cool about the piece we're diving into today. It's called Paste in Text. It really gets into those everyday negotiations, those little moments where, we're trying to figure out what we want and how to get it without stepping on anyone's toes.
Right. And the source actually gives like two definitions of negotiate, which I thought was really
Oh, yeah.
interesting.
Tell me more about that.
Okay, so the first one is like the traditional definition, like to arrange or settle something by discussion and mutual agreement, like, hammering out a contract or whatever.
Okay, makes sense. So what's the second one?
The second one is more like to successfully travel along or over a difficult route or obstacle. And that one really jumped out at me because it's like, life throws all these curveballs at us and we're constantly having to navigate those challenges, figure out how to keep moving forward.
Wow, that's deep. It's like we're negotiating with life itself. I love that. And, the source gets into this really interesting personal story that kind of illustrates that second definition perfectly.
Hmm.
It's about this situation where the writer lent a significant amount of money to someone close to them with the understanding that it would be paid back.
Oh, I remember this story. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can guess what happened. The money never came back.
Ugh, yeah. Classic.
Right. And it just got me thinking about those situations where, maybe we're not talking about money, but there were these unspoken expectations in relationships. And when those expectations aren't met, it can lead to some serious conflict.
Absolutely. Like, sometimes we just assume that other people are operating on the same page as us, that they have the same understanding of like unspoken rules or boundaries. And when that's not the case, it can create a lot of friction.
Totally. And in this story, the writer talks about how, they kind of accepted these, let's call them creative explanations from the borrower for a while, assuming they just needed more time. But there's this turning point in the story where they say, I am simply fighting for what belongs to me. And that really struck a chord with me.
Yeah, it's a powerful statement. It marks the shift from passive acceptance um, to actively seeking a resolution. Like, okay, enough is enough. I need to stand up for myself.
Right. But at the same time, I was thinking, is that kind of approach, a little too aggressive, especially when dealing with someone you care about? Like, how do you find that balance between being assertive and not damaging the relationship?
It's tricky, right? Like you don't want to come across as, a heartless jerk, but you also need to protect yourself. And I think this is where understanding your BTNA comes into play.
Your beak of DNA. What's that?
So BTNA stands for your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Basically, it's about knowing what your options are if the negotiation falls apart. So in this situation, the lender's BT&A might be taking legal action, seeking mediation, or even just accepting the loss and moving on.
Oh, I see. So it's like having a backup plan, knowing that you're not completely stuck if things don't go your way.
Exactly. And that knowledge, just knowing your BA&A, can give you a lot more confidence and leverage in the negotiation because, you're not desperate, you have other options.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's not about going into it with a win-at-all-costs mentality, but more about finding a solution that, works for everyone involved, or at least being prepared to walk away if you can't reach a fair agreement.
Absolutely. And, it's interesting because sometimes we're in negotiations and we don't even realize it.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about that too, especially when the source talks about these missed opportunities and this idea of FOMO, the fear of missing out. Like we've all had those moments where we look back and think, I should have done this or I missed out on that.
Oh, yeah, totally. And it's so easy to get caught up in those regrets, like
Yeah.
beating ourselves up for not taking a chance or making a different decision. But the source actually offers a really interesting perspective on this.
I'm all ears. What do they say?
Well, they say that instead of viewing missed opportunities as failures, we should see them as valuable data points.
Data points. Okay, I'm not sure I follow. How can a missed opportunity be a data point?
Think about it this way. Every time we miss an opportunity, it tells us something about ourselves, right? Maybe it reveals a fear of confrontation or a tendency to prioritize other people's needs over our own, or even just a blind spot in how we assess risk.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like, by analyzing those situations, we can learn something about our values, our priorities, and maybe even our weaknesses.
Exactly. And that knowledge can be incredibly valuable because it helps us make better decisions in the future. It's like, okay, now I know that I tend to avoid conflict. So next time I'm in a similar situation, I'm going to be more conscious of that and try to be more assertive.
So it's not about dwelling on the past and beating ourselves up, but rather using those experiences as opportunities for growth and learning.
I love that. It kind of reframes the whole concept of FOMO, like, yeah, maybe I missed out on something, but I gained some valuable insight about myself in the process. Right. And the cool thing is when you start applying the principles of negotiation to those situations, like clear communication, understanding your BATNA, setting boundaries, it gives you a lot more confidence to seize those opportunities in the future.
It's like you're not just reacting to what life throws at you, you're actively shaping your own path.
Exactly. And that's really empowering, I think.
I agree. Well, I think we covered a lot of ground today. As we wrap up our deep dive into the art of negotiation, I guess the big takeaway here is that it's not just about contracts and deals. It's really about navigating the complexities of human relationships, understanding our own needs and motivations, and making conscious choices about what truly matters to us.
Yeah, it's a skill that's applicable in every facet of life, from personal relationships to professional endeavors. And the more we understand the subtle dynamics of negotiation, the more empowered we become to create a life that aligns with our values.
Absolutely. So as you go through your week, just take a moment to think about the subtle negotiations happening all around you. Are you clearly communicating your needs? Are you honoring your own boundaries while respecting those of others? Are you using those missed opportunities as valuable data points for growth? Just some food for thought. And with that, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, happy negotiating.
See ya.